Hello everyone, I'm Jen and I make useful English Lit study videos on Shakespeare, poetry, fiction, literary devices and more to help you get top grades in the subject. So if this sounds like what you need, then make sure that you hit the subscribe button below so that you don't miss out on any of my top grade English Lit revision content. So today's video is going to be another character analysis on Iago. Now, those of you who are studying Othello would know him to be the diabolical, manipulative villain in the play. I have a whole playlist on the play Othello, which includes a deep dive analysis on Iago as well. So make sure that you check that out here if you haven't already. What I want to do today is to challenge the conventional interpretative landscape surrounding the character of Iago, which is mostly awash with views ranging from him being the devil reincarnate, whose singular mission is to ruin all the lives around him, to the consummate Machiavellian who delights in playing these diabolical mind games, to the bitter hellraiser who, in Samuel Taylor Coleridge's famous words, is armed with nothing more than motiveless malignity. While all of these are fair characterizations, I'd like to suggest something perhaps a little more off the beaten track of Iago's scholarship. What if we were to think of Iago as a projection of Shakespeare's shadow self, and specifically of Shakespeare's subconscious desires as a professional dramatist? Now, if you're intrigued by those questions, then make sure that you stick around and hear me out till the end of this video, because I promise you by the end of it, you'll have gained a critical perspective on the character of Iago that you will not find anywhere else, and that you can also reference when you do your revision to come up with your own top grade interpretation. Let's dive straight into it. Throughout the play, Iago offers a confusing and often conflicting mix of reasons for why he hates Othello and wants to ruin the Moor and Desdemona's marriage. Right from the start in Act 1, Iago tells Rodrigo that he suspects Othello has had an affair with his own wife, Emilia, when he says, "I hate the Moor, and it is thought abroad that twixt my sheets he has done my office." But then we're quickly told that sexual paranoia isn't quite the only reason for his hatred. Professional jealousy is also at work, because he's bitter about being passed over for a promotion which went to Cassio, who is his colleague. Now, the way with which Iago constantly paints Othello in bestial, racist terms shows also his innately discriminatory attitude towards the Moor. And this suggests that Iago may also dislike Othello on the basis of pure bigotry. What's most likely, of course, is that Iago is motivated to different extents by all of these factors. But even if this were the case, then all we can say about his characterization is that he is a bitter, small-minded man driven to revenge by sexual, professional, and racial insecurity. However, if we were to evaluate the entire play, perhaps we'll notice that Iago could come across in a completely different persona. Not as a scheming poisoner of relationships who enjoys nothing more than wreaking emotional havoc, but as this pseudo-dramatist who seeks to exert artistic control by imagining everyone, including himself, as actors in a play. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's first start by looking at some evidence. The first suggestion of this lies in diction, with the recurrence of the word play in Iago's Act 2 soliloquies and asides, such as when he says, "If such tricks as these strip you out of your lieutenantry, it had been better you had not kissed your 3 fingers so oft, which now again you are most apt to play the sir in," which is the aside he makes in observation of Cassio from a distance. Or when he says, "And what's he then that says I play the villain, when this advice is free I give, and honest, probable to thinking, and indeed the course to win the Moor again. His soul is so enfettered to her love, that she may make, unmake, do what she list, even as her appetite shall play the god with his weak function." So you notice here, he ascribes the verb play to both himself and to Desdemona. So the word play means to act, and the conscious use of theatrical diction here suggests that Iago views those around him to be these agents of the stage, each playing their respective part, himself as villain to all, Desdemona as god to her husband, Cassio as the gentleman to the ladies, etc. All of these characters are these dramatic agents rather than real human beings living an existence wherein their actions carry real consequences. We'll see that there's a meta-theatrical layer to wrap our heads around here. Because of course we know every character is really ultimately a dramatic and fictional construct. So Iago, by making clear his puppeteering of human relations and dynamics, implies a sort of open acknowledgement of the stagedness of the play. Seen in this light then, Iago's ironically, if not somewhat perversely, the most honest character out of everyone in the play. Another instance which shows Iago as the playwright within the play comes through in Act 4, Scene 1, when he occasions Cassio and Bianca's quarrel about the handkerchief, which was supposed to be Othello's gift to Desdemona, and gets Othello to observe from afar in the state of befuddled misunderstanding. By the way, guys, I'd massively appreciate it if you could hit the thumbs up button below, subscribe to my channel, and switch on that bell notification if you find this video helpful so far. This would really help me carry on making these useful English Lit study videos so that you can get top grades in the subject and we can inspire more people to enjoy the study of literature. In this moment, Iago is effectively triangulating the classic theatre setting by casting Cassio and Bianca as the actors and positioning Othello as a playgoer while maintaining the distance between the stage and the audience pit. And interestingly, had it been a real theatrical production, Othello would be the commoner playgoer who doesn't get the plum seat because he can't hear or see the situation about Cassio and Bianca clearly. Throughout the moment, Iago speaks as if he were the stage director, doling out instructions to Cassio about where to go and what to do. As when he says, "Do you hear, Cassio? She gives it out that you shall marry her. Do you intend it? Before me, look, where she comes. After her, after her. Go to, say no more." Judging from Iago's replies and questions to Othello after the handkerchief scene, one could argue that Iago's glee isn't so much a result of seeing Othello's misguided rage, but rather of witnessing his own virtuosic staging, with the smugness and seal of his artistic triumph reflected in the tone of his self-evident questioning to Othello, when he asks, "Did you perceive how he laughed at his vice? And did you see the handkerchief?" The emphasis of Iago's boast is on the actor's performance, how he laughed, and of the stage prop's presence, see the handkerchief. For Iago then, this is a golden moment of dramaturgical triumph, a testament to his masterful, successful orchestration of how the puppets in his production have duly played their part to a T. As such, perhaps we can understand the source of Iago's desire not so much as this hateful, destructive force which seeks to ravage all human relations, even though this is of course a natural result of his actions, but rather quite the opposite, as this unifying force which looks to activate each agent character as actor within the same organic context, and to have all of these elements create a majestic, albeit monstrous, production of human tragedy. Taking our interpretation a step further, let's consider Iago as a shadow self for Shakespeare's playwright persona. As a dramatist whose job was to maintain a high level of artistic control while allowing for the contingencies of the actors and the stage back then, and of course we know that the Renaissance theatre was a highly fluid, dynamic space with lots of changes and unpredictabilities, Shakespeare was also working within a tightly regulated and politicized environment. After all, the play Othello was first performed in 1604, which is 1 year after the ascension of King James I, following which Shakespeare's acting company officially came under the monarch's patronage and was renamed from the Lord Chamberlain's Men to the King's Men. So in this sort of situation, we can imagine that Shakespeare was carrying both an incredible artistic and political weight on his shoulders, and would have constantly been anxious about having to do the right moral thing. So it's no surprise then, perhaps Shakespeare would have needed a cathartic outlet for this amount of responsibility. And so I encourage us to consider that his characterization of Iago might be one such cathartic outlet for his darker imagination. Indeed, what if a playwright like Shakespeare didn't do the right thing, refused to conduct himself morally, and instead sought to express his control in diabolical, evil ways, just like Iago? What would happen not just to the dramatic stage, but also the real socio-political stage if Machiavellian ways were let loose? By having Iago manifest the darkest excesses of human nature, Shakespeare creates a safe imaginary space for himself within the most comfortable context to him, which is the play and the stage. As such, Shakespeare can explore the dangerously blurry boundaries of artistic control and political power. With Iago as a front, Shakespeare, the politically cautious playwright, is now free to lurk behind his darker, morally unhinged doppelganger to vicariously witness what he will never allow himself to do in reality. And there you go, guys. Here's my alternative meta-theatrical take on Iago in a critical landscape that's frankly become a bit boring with all the bog-standard readings on Iago being no more than this devil Machiavellian manipulator. But anyway, I hope you found my reading interesting and that it has inspired you to consider different angles when reading the play and its characters. Make sure you check out my Othello playlist, which you can find in the description box below. And as always, hit that thumbs up button if you found this useful for your studies so that YouTube knows to share this with other passionate top grade lit students like yourself. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and switch on that bell notification so you don't miss out on any of my weekly study videos going forward. I will see you in the next video.